I'm Paul. I'm working with Oliver on some apps for EFL. If you want to access the game that Oliver was talking about, the address is on the whiteboard, appsforefl.com/activity/griddle, or you can just Google for EFL apps, and the first link will be our site. And then you can find the link to Griddle from the front page of the apps for EFL. Also, Oliver didn't mention, but all of the outcomes, all of the interactions with all of the apps for EFL apps can be tracked by the teacher. So if the teacher signs up, and that's the end of my presentation, thank you very much. If the teacher signs up for an account on the site, and then he has his students sign up and join the class that he's created, every single interaction with any of the apps on the site can be tracked and monitored in detail. So it's easy, incredibly easy to integrate into your grading rubric for any class. So I'm just going to talk quickly about another app we've worked on together called Error Spotter. And this was a kind of Oliver's suggestion to help students improve their recognition of grammatical mistakes. This can be accessed at the URL below, or again through the main page. I'm just going to go through a quick who, what, where, when, why, how. So myself and Oliver made this app. I focused mainly on the code and design, and Oliver provided the concept and the data. And what exactly is it? It's an app which presents grammatically incorrect sentences, and the mistakes can be clicked by the user. So this works on any device, so mobile and desktop, and it works in the browser. So it's not, you can't download it from the App Store, but it just works in the browser. So here's an example. Watching TV too much isn't good for your eyes. Can anyone spot the mistake? Yeah, good job. So you would click the to, and it would give you the feedback. I'll try and demonstrate it later if I can get an internet connection. And then they would be rewarded with a nice sound effect, and a green bar increases. If they click the wrong place, then it would go red. Every word and every space between every word is clickable. So they act as the distractors. So every other word and every space between the word acts as the distractors. Oh, okay, here's the where. Again, if you want to access it, if you have a QR code reader, you can just scan this. But otherwise, please use the URL. We've been developing this since February this year, so it's still kind of in development. It's not completely polished and finished yet, but I think we're getting there. There's still some things we would like to do. Why did we do this? Many people might ask. So reason number one is to raise the consciousness of the learner. Many students are not even aware that they are making grammatical mistakes, so they can't start to fix the mistakes until they are aware that they are making the mistakes. Second one is to highlight L1 interference. So as you probably know in your own contexts, many mistakes are made by interference of the L1. So for example, Japanese just simply doesn't have articles. So it's very, very hard for Japanese students to understand how articles work. Native speakers tend to use their intuition. And so it's very hard to just teach. You can't teach your intuition. So you have to find some way. And if you start teaching rules, if you go, okay, you use the when there's one other thing, or when everyone knows what you're talking about, or but except when you, you know what I mean? It's like you could write a whole book on the exceptions to the rules. So it's not the best way to teach about articles, for example. But if students can see the mistake and be able to find it, that's more effective. We can provide immediate feedback. So the app provides the feedback. Whereas if you give students grammar tests, you're going to have to mark it yourself, which is time-consuming and not particularly interesting. And finally, collect evidence of the learning. So again, we have to give students a grade. Probably in an ideal world, there'd be no grades. It would just like, okay, let's learn a language. But we have to give students A, B, C, D, E at the end of the semester, right? So this is one way to collect evidence that they've actually been doing what you asked them to do. Quick kind of summary of how the app was made. Oliver assembled 500 correct and incorrect sentence pairs, and we used Google Sheets to kind of record the data. And you can see, if we zoom in a little bit, every mistake and every correction is tagged with square brackets. By the way, if anyone wants to join us on this thrilling adventure, please go ahead. It's very easy. I can give you access to the Google Sheet. All you have to do is tag the mistake and tag the correction with square brackets, okay? And we could get another 500 sentences. We're going to start to categorize the kinds of mistake. So we're going to have students if a student is constantly making article mistakes, we'll have a set of 500 purely article mistake sentences. Yeah. So please let me know if you want to join us. The data was then converted to a computer-readable form, and I used some open web technologies to create the app. Leander mentioned some of these earlier on. If you want to learn how to do this yourself, I suggest you watch Leander's videos. Start from there. But these are the technologies that I use. Okay, and I hope to be able to demonstrate. There's no Wi-Fi connection at this venue, so I'm going to try and go through tethering, but I'm reaching my cap, so it might not work, but we'll see. See if we can get it working. Okay, so this is apps for EFL. I'm currently logged in as a student, so you can see up here, Taro, and I'm in the test class. Actually, I might have to join the public class. By default, students are in the public class, which has a bunch of sample data already in there. So students can just start studying straight away without you having to upload anything yourself. And then we're going to go to Error Spotter and click play. Okay, so here we go. First sentence, some students take physics and others take biology. I'm going to hand it over to you to let me know what the mistake is. So please call out the answer.
The apostrophe.
Okay, so remember, students can click any word or any space. So it wouldn't just be the apostrophe, but the whole word is classed as being incorrect. So let's have a look. Okay, there we go. So it gives you time, it actually stops after each correct answer. We used to have it where it would advance to the next question after about 5 seconds. But I found doing this in a whole class context, you want to stop and explain why it's correct. Okay, so you can do this game quite easily in a whole class context. If your students don't have devices, or you want to do it as a whole class activity, that's great. And students can be in teams, they can write down what they think the answer is, and then everyone calls out what they think it is, and then the ones who were correct get the point. And then you can explain why it was correct. So we're going to go to the next question. My father is usually busy than his father. Okay, anyone know? Okay. Very good, okay. One thing I thought of adding was to have actually why is it incorrect, and a grammatical explanation, but that's a lot more work on the data side. And I think someone needs to join Oliver to provide that functionality. I'm actually working on a new publication which is going to be a list of common errors made by Japanese learners of English. There's already a few of those out there actually, but I'm not sure the authors will be willing to share their data freely for this app. Oh, hey.
Sorry, what happens if you click the wrong answer?
Oh, I'll show you on the next question. Okay. So that would be nice to have, that's correct because, but that's, something we need to maybe think about in the future.
Assuming that students would actually read it.
Sorry.
The explanation.
Yes, assuming they would read it, yes. We don't know they would. So that was one sentence snuck in there that wasn't correctly formatted, so I have to restart the game. Okay, so if you click the wrong answer, I'll just click York. Okay. A nice bit, the sound effects were Oliver's suggestion, by the way. A nice bit of audio feedback. And it just says not correct. And then, you have to go to the next question. So it highlights what was the correct answer. So you do get some feedback about, what was actually the correct answer. And then the students can quit at any time. So in the classroom, sometimes you have to just end the activity and go to the next one. If the student's halfway through the game and you say, okay, quit, they're going, oh, I lose my points, but you have to be in lockstep with the other students. So this one, if they quit halfway through, they get points for up until that point. So you see, you didn't get any points because I didn't answer any questions correctly. But if I had done, it would have told me. And at the end, we get a nice review lesson. The X indicates whether they actually answered it correctly. On the right side, we have the actual grammatically correct sentence. On the left side, we have the grammatically incorrect sentence. And this reviews the whole 10 questions, even if they quit before the end of the game. Okay. Let's go back to the slides briefly. Oh, hey.
Can you do one more demonstration when you get it wrong?
Yep. Mount Fuji is covered by snow at this time of year. So Mount Fuji is covered by snow, should be covered with snow.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the first one,
Yeah.
because it corrected so quickly, I didn't notice. It looked like a correct answer.
Right. Okay.
By the time I hadn't registered where the error was, I found that I didn't actually know.
It disappeared already. Okay.
I mean, when I get my Japanese corrected, I found it useful when the person puts a line through what I wrote and then corrects it.
Right. Okay. That's a
You
nice
can
idea.
see it at the end.
Yeah,
So at
yeah.
the end of the game, there is the two there. So you would have it.
Maybe have it above that with a line through it and down.
Yeah, that's the way I
Yeah.
Okay.
read it.
Nice idea. I'll do that tonight. Yes, I think that's good to have the feedback on the page, and then when you're explaining it as well, you can say, well, that's the correct one, this is the incorrect one. Yeah, thank you. Let's go back to the slides quickly. So I said this is kind of a work in progress still, but these are the kind of things that we want to do now. Oliver's started this process already, but he's categorizing the errors into different types. So at the moment, it just selects 10 questions randomly from the bank of 500 sentences and just presents them randomly. But I think we'd like to be able to target the error type and say, okay, you need help with this, please do that error type. We need to add more errors, and again, volunteers, please join us. The bank of errors can be quite easily added to by anyone who can write in a spreadsheet. So, some of the errors we had some difficulty with when there's more than one possible answer, more than one possible correction. And English grammar is like this. It's more of an art than a science. So one person may think, oh, that's the mistake. Other people might think that's the mistake. Somebody else might think it's perfectly acceptable sentence when you get into collocations and things. So I think like very delicious is grammatically incorrect. I don't think it's correct to say that is very delicious, because delicious is an ungradable adjective. You would say absolutely delicious or completely delicious, right? I did a whole paper on this for my master's. Okay, so there are people on both sides of the debate. Some say very delicious is fine, others say no, it's technically incorrect. And you get into native speaker intuition, it's not really grammatical, it's more collocational. So when you get into collocation, it's a matter of opinion. So we're trying to keep it only with, everyone agrees that it's grammatically incorrect sentence.
Okay, another thing with that is, even if it's only one error,
Yeah.
you have to be able to click on one word in order to identify the error. For example, if there's a mistake saying more big, in that case the person might click on more, or they might click on big. So that's not possible, is it?
Yeah.
It has to be actually one of the words. So there are ones like that which we can't.
That's the kind of issue with the engine that I use to split the sentences. So if we could tag the sentences more comprehensively, then we could do more than one word is an error. But because I'm splitting the sentence on spaces, you can't have a space within a tag within a. You know what I'm saying, right?
I know very well what you're saying, yes.
It's a technical kind of limitation of the current code behind it, but it's possible to.
You can get around it.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
Yeah. So finally, next one is rank errors by difficulty. Now this is something that I've actually, the program is recording all of the responses until now, and we can see which ones the students missed most frequently out of everyone who's used the app. So I'm just going to try and bring up that data 1 minute. Oh, by the way, the other thing is it will idle out after 3 minutes. So one thing my site does is record how much time the student spends on task.
Right.
And if they just load up the app and go, okay, I'm going to get like 6 hours out of this, leave it
Check my
running.
email.
Yeah, it will idle out after 3 minutes, so they can't cheat like that. Let's try and bring up this data. So this is the actual database of sentences. And this is the stats. Let's try and make this a bit bigger. Okay, so the first, these red ones are actually kind of, the data was corrupted, so they're not included in the analysis. But you can see this one here. Few people could afford to travel abroad in these days. On average, it took students 15 seconds to answer that question. There were 28 answers altogether, and nobody got it correct. Okay, so every one of the students who answered that question clicked somewhere else. So, but it is technically incorrect, right? We wouldn't say these days. We wouldn't say in these days.
That's actually tagged incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
We should have the in. We should have the brackets
the
around
interview
in,
tag,
but
okay.
delete the in.
Ignore that one. Okay, ignore that one. That should be highlighted red as well.
This system also tells us when we've screwed up, because we can see, no, I got it
I
correct,
think you
because
could
it's not.
have those instead of these as well, in those days, time
Uh-huh.
in the past.
Okay,
That's true, yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
go down.
that's probably why I chose that task, but yeah, that has 2 possible corrections, so we should get rid of that.
let's go down to the number 7 now. So my cousin's birthday is on the 22nd of next month. Okay, that's quite, that's very hard to notice even for native speakers, I would say. But again, we had average time, 10 seconds to answer, 29 answers, 1 person got it correct. Okay, probably a teacher. 3% correct on that one. I wish we can see some dolphins. The correct one is I hope, right? So I wish we can see, I hope we, it should be I hope we can see.
Yeah.
Average time to answer 11 seconds, 27 answers, 1 person correct. Okay. So we know from the system that either these are impossible to answer, which is the red ones, we're going to eliminate those obviously, and or they're just very, very difficult for Japanese students to actually spot the error. If we go down to the bottom of the sheets, so here we go. This sentence, the chair wasn't made by my friend Kumi. We've got the missing apostrophe. Average time 27 seconds, 20 answers, and every single student spotted the error. So we can say that, you know, as we get more and more data, we'll be able to say to teachers, look, don't bother teaching them apostrophes because they can spot when it's wrong, you know, or don't focus on that quite so much because most students can spot when it's not correct. So, yeah, so that's that. And then let's go back to the spreadsheet, 1 minute. Our final thing is to research the app's impact on error recognition in other contexts. So in the same way that Leander asked about the impact of the grammatical knowledge of Griddle, how much does this app actually affect their productive ability? And that's kind of a follow-up research project that we'd like to do. Last 5 minutes, can I quickly show you Griddle as well? We didn't get a chance to demo Griddle, did we? So Griddle can use any Quizlet set, by the way. And Quizlet has like over 100 million sets of vocabulary. It's just a ridiculous amount. It's too many, if anything. So you have to curate, to some extent, which sets you want to use. They are preloaded with some of Oliver's kind of sets that he made for his other previous apps. So let's go with, what's a good one, Oliver?
Yeah, that one right there, sentence
This one?
translation, maybe. Yeah.
Basic?
Yeah.
Okay. So students can preview the sentences before, but it's actually, by default, they can't see anything. So if you want to use it as a test, they can just not click that. And then start. And here we go. So, 私のお父さん、お父父はカナダにいます。Okay. Translation, please.
My father is in Canada.
My... Oh no. So basically, if you get it wrong, the whole thing kind of, you have to start from the beginning again. So it's a disincentive just to click randomly, you know.
Right.
And then if you get it correct, you get 3 chances. If you get it wrong 3 times, it's...
So it's better to remove the dot in there because it
Oh.
shows that it's
Right. Students can kind of deduce that kind of is the last word and mine is the first one.
Right.
But for me, actually, my students often forget to put periods and they forget to put capital letters as well.
Really?
So it's kind of reminding them that, yeah, the last word needs a period. But you're right, that could be a better
Clue, yeah.
So my father is in Canada. Okay, and then they get the full sentence and 2 points added. So it's 2 points for every correct response, basically. And as I said before, Apps for EFL tracks interactions with every app, so Error Spotter is included in that as well. And if a student goes to their progress screen, they can customize their avatar and things. It's got some kind of like gamification and social networking kind of aspects to it as well. They can see their progress, go to Griddle. My father is in Canada, they got 2 points 17 seconds ago. And we can even dig down into, you know, what the exact question response, the time it took them to answer and everything, right? So, and the teacher view, the teacher can see this exact same screen. And they can also delete any kind of attempts if they deem it, appropriate to do that. Yeah, that's the basic behind Gridle and Error Spotter. 2 minutes for questions. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Yes.
So for the other one,
Error Spotter.
Error Spotter,
Yeah.
can you, do you collect data on who your users are, like their L1 background, or how many years they've learned English?
We do collect some biodata at the minute. If you go to if the student logs in and goes to the settings page, they have an input for age, gender, year, major, and their level. I'm working with a few other teachers who want to use the site for research purposes, and they want to record this kind of biodata, but it's not compulsory. So if you get your students who say, okay, please everyone register with the site and complete your biodata, that's fine. But when they actually sign up, they only have to provide their name and their email address. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, you had more to the question. I interrupted you, sorry.
Oh, that was, can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure.
So, is it possible for the feedback, when they get the final feedback, oh, you got all of these wrong, can you, categorize it, you had more mistakes in this type of grammar construction, and less in this?
So you would say what kind of mistake they made?
Yeah, what is the most common type of difficulty they
Yeah.
have?
As I said, we're working on categorizing the errors now. So let's go back to the main screen. The third column here, we've got type. Let's try and log out, zoom out a little bit. There we go. So we started the process of categorizing these errors. And once we have that data set complete, then that's something that I could do and say, you made the most mistakes with articles or with the past tense. Is that your question?
Yeah. And then, sorry, one more.
Yeah.
Have you considered using corpus, Japanese learner, or just learner corpus to get your, common sentences?
That's a nice idea, actually. Have you considered that, Oliver?
Could do. You have to sort of filter through a lot of that data. What I did was just got sort of sentences, and then from all my experience correcting students' work, I kind of know what mistakes they make. So I just got a good sentence and then screwed it up in the way that I thought they usually do.
We're going off intuition mainly, but I think using a corpus would be great. And if I could maybe perhaps automate the process, but correcting the actual sentences, that would be manual. So you could find incorrect examples in the corpus. Then you have to manually go through them and say how they're correct. And some sentences are beyond repetition. Some sentences are beyond help. So
yeah, like we said, if there's more than one error or more than one way to correct that error, you can't use it. So there would be just, even though you might have a good mass in the corpus to start with, you'd have to do so much filtering. For me, it seems easier to screw up good sentences than it does to do all that filtering.
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, what's your opinion of that ELK Net Academy 2 program?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that. What's the address for that?
No idea. ELK Net Academy 2.
elk.co.jt.
You can probably get to there from there.
Okay, I haven't actually personally had experience using that. Is that a similar kind of app, or?
Well, the students hate it.
My students have to do that, not by my choice.
No.
I hate it.
Is that also finding the error in sentences, or how does it
Well,
work?
there's a vocabulary, we get the right word out of a bunch of choices, but the students just hate it. We literally have to put a percentage to force them to do it.
Right.
And that defeats the whole purpose
Okay.
of,
Okay.
if you want to learn English,
Yeah.
you want to hate English.
Yeah. With my site, I use every activity with my classes. I give them a choice of what activity they want to do, and many times they will choose to do Error Spotter. So I don't think they hate it. I haven't done a survey yet I haven't done a what's it called attitudinal survey yet, but I will. Yeah. I don't think they hate it. I hope they don't.
I mean, apart from attitudinal survey, yeah, you can just see from the data which one they're choosing to use and how long they're using it for and stuff like that, and whether they're using it more than the required amount.
One final thing, my page is paulsensei.com. Please contact me and volunteer to help us with this project. Thank you very much. Thank you.